All right, let's dive in today. Prepping for a food safety inspector job interview. Big responsibility, keeping our food safe, and, you know, it's a career that's in high demand right now. So the interview process, it can be pretty tough. We're going to be using some great resources from RoleCatcher to help you get ready. Their career guide, A&D, their interview guide. They even have some cool AI features. We'll talk about those a bit later. Could give you a real leg up. I'm joined today by an expert in interview prep and career advancement. Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
Now, the RoleCatcher Career Guide, it lays out all the responsibilities of a food safety inspector. And it sounds like it's a lot more than just, checking expiration dates.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. A food safety inspector is kind of like a detective, a scientist, and a communicator, all in one. They make sure that all those food products and the whole process, how they make them, meet all those, the safety, the health regulations, and they work in all sorts of places, factories, storage facilities, restaurants even, and they're talking to all sorts of people. So communication skills are really key, along with, really understanding food safety.
It does sound dynamic, and the guide even mentions there's potential for travel, so that could be exciting. Let's turn to the RoleCatcher Interview Guide now. It's got 10 sample questions, the kind of questions that you're likely to be asked in an interview. We're going to go through them one by one and give you some insights what the interviewer's looking for and how to approach the answer. So, question number 1. Describe your experience in food safety inspections. Seems pretty straightforward, but I guess there's some things to keep in mind.
Yeah, you're right. It does seem simple, but you really want to make sure you're not just listing all your past jobs. The interviewer's trying to gauge how much you actually know, and how much experience you have with these food safety principles. Like, imagine you're the interviewer. Wouldn't you be more impressed by someone who says, I conducted an average of 15 inspections a week, and I specialized in dairy processing facilities, versus someone who just says, oh yeah, I did inspections.
That's a great point. Quantifying that experience really makes a difference. Now, what about certifications? The career guide mentions things like HACCP and ServSafe. Should those be brought up here?
Absolutely. Certifications like HACCP, which stands for Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points, it's a big one. It's a, preventative approach to food safety. And it's a globally recognized standard. By mentioning those certifications, you're showing the interviewer that you're committed to this field. And you know what you're talking about.
Smart strategy, like you're speaking their language.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to question number 2. How do you stay up to date on food safety regulations and guidelines? This one feels like it's about showing you're passionate and committed.
Yeah, it really is. Think about it this way. The food industry is always changing. There are new regulations, new technologies, even new foodborne pathogens. You need to show the interviewer that you're dedicated to constantly learning. So when you answer this question, don't just say, I read stuff. You need to be specific.
So give examples, like industry publications, training courses you've taken, professional organizations.
Exactly. You could mention that you attended a recent workshop, on the latest food safety regs, or maybe you subscribe to a journal, something on food microbiology. By sharing that stuff, it shows you're being proactive. You're not going to fall behind.
Like showing them you're already thinking ahead, that's valuable in any job. Now, question 3. How do you handle non-compliance issues during a food safety inspection? I imagine that could be tricky.
It can be. Here they're trying to figure out how you communicate, your problem-solving skills, and how well you understand the regulations. You want to come across as collaborative, not like you're going to punish people. Remember, your goal is to help places get into compliance and keep the food safe.
So how would you recommend approaching this question?
Well, first, you want to lay out the steps, how you would explain the problem to, the person who owns the business. Then talk about how you'd work with them to get things fixed. Come up with a plan, maybe give them a reasonable deadline. You want to emphasize that you'll be giving them resources and guidance. Shows you're not just pointing fingers, you're there to help them.
That's a good approach.
Yeah.
Shows you understand that balance. All right, question 4. This one sounds a bit more intense. Have you ever had to shut down a food establishment due to serious food safety violations?
Yeah, that's a serious question. They want to know how you make decisions and how committed you are to food safety, even when things get tough. If you have had to shut a place down, be honest about it. Briefly describe what happened, what you did to try to fix it, and how it all turned out. But really focus on the actions you took to protect the public.
What if you haven't had to do that?
Then you can talk about what you know. the regulations and procedures. Explain how you would approach that kind of scenario, how serious different violations are, the steps laid out in the food safety codes.
So you're prepared, committed to food safety. I like that. All right, question 5. How do you handle situations where you suspect a foodborne illness outbreak? This one sounds like a movie.
It can be. Those outbreaks, they're a serious public health concern. And this question's designed to figure out how you investigate, how you work under pressure, and how you collaborate with other people. Talk about how you would approach the whole investigation. Gathering evidence, interviewing staff, checking how they're handling the food, working closely with public health officials.
Putting the pieces together.
Exactly. And your answer should really showcase how you think things through and how you stay calm under pressure. If you've ever done any outbreak investigations, even in training or a case study, mention that.
Showing you're ready for anything. All right, on to question 6. How do you prioritize your workload as a food safety inspector? I imagine things can get pretty hectic.
Oh, absolutely. You got to be good at managing your time. You're juggling a lot. Inspections, reports, follow-ups, all while staying up on the latest regs. So your answer should show that you have a system, for prioritizing tasks.
So what kind of system would you recommend?
Well, a lot of people prioritize based on risk. For instance, a place with a history of problems or one that handles risky foods. They might get priority over a place with a good track record.
Makes sense. Focus your energy where it's most needed. What other factors might you consider?
You might also think about urgency, like a complaint about really bad conditions. That would need immediate attention. And of course, you have to think about your resources. You might have to schedule things around lab tests or coordinate with other inspectors. The important thing is to show you can think strategically and adapt.
Resourceful, organized, essential skills for this job. Okay, question 7. This one focuses on the educational aspect. What methods do you use to educate food establishment owners and employees on food safety practices? All about communication.
Yeah, for sure. You're not just there to enforce the rules. You're also a teacher. You want these businesses to understand and follow best practices, keep their products safe. So your answer should highlight how you explain those complicated regs and how you tailor your approach for different people.
I bet it's different explaining things to a chef compared to, say, a new food truck owner.
Exactly. You got to be adaptable and communicate effectively with different people. Think about all the ways you can do that. Training sessions, handouts, showing them how to do things correctly, even using real-life examples to illustrate your points.
Food safety teacher.
Yeah, kind of. And, if you're excited about food safety and good at connecting with people, it'll show. You want them leaving feeling empowered, not scared or confused.
Building that positive relationship. Okay, question 8. This one sounds personal. Describe a time when you had to make a tough decision related to food safety.
It is. It's a tough one. They're trying to see if you have integrity, if you make ethical decisions, if you do the right thing, even under pressure.
So how do you answer this?
Pick a situation where you had to balance different priorities or make a really hard call. Like maybe you had to write a ticket to someone who is struggling, or maybe you had to disagree with your boss. The key is to explain the situation clearly. Talk about what you had to consider and show how your decision put food safety first.
Unwavering commitment to protecting public health, even when it's hard. Question 9, this one gets to the core of trust. How do you ensure your inspections are conducted in a fair and impartial manner?
Really important one. You represent an authority, and your actions affect people's businesses, their livelihoods. Got to be objective and fair.
Key points to emphasize here.
Well, you want to start by talking about your commitment to the process, following the rules and procedures. Approach each inspection with a fresh eye. No preconceived ideas or biases. You can even mention ways you check your own biases, making sure your decisions are based on facts, not opinions.
Like a judge.
That's a good way to think about it.
Okay, last question in this set. What steps do you take to ensure confidentiality and secure handling of sensitive information? Data privacy is a big deal these days.
Absolutely it is. As an inspector, you're going to see confidential stuff, maybe even personal health information. You need to show that you understand how important it is to keep that stuff safe and that you know the rules about data security.
How would you answer this one?
Start by outlining the specific steps you take to keep records safe, both paper and digital. Explain how you follow the rules, like using strong passwords, encrypting information, and disposing of things properly. You can also mention privacy laws, like HIPAA if you're dealing with health information.
Being responsible and trustworthy with that sensitive information. Now, before we wrap up this section, I want to talk about something that can really help you tailor your answers. The AI features offered by RoleCatcher. What can you tell us about those?
Well, imagine this. You're prepping for your interview, and you've got this virtual coach who can analyze what you're saying, compare it to the actual job requirements, and give you personalized feedback.
Incredible, like a secret weapon.
Pretty much. RoleCatcher's AI can point out areas to improve, highlight keywords to include, even suggest follow-up questions they might ask you. It's like having a custom prep session made just for the job you want.
Amazing. I'm feeling more confident already just hearing about it.
Yeah.
But acing the interview, that's just the first hurdle, right?
Yeah.
What happens after you get the job?
Yeah.
What does the career path look like for a food safety inspector?
Well, that's where the RoleCatcher Career Guide really shines. It gives you all this insight into the different stages of a food safety inspector's career, like a roadmap showing you the different routes you can take and the skills you need to develop along the way.
I love that, a guide for your career journey. So where does it all begin?
Usually you'd start as a food safety inspector trainee. This is your chance to learn the ropes from the pros, get some hands-on experience, and build a solid foundation in, the principles and regulations of food safety.
Like an apprenticeship.
Yeah, you're shadowing the experts, learning by doing.
What kind of tasks would a trainee be doing?
Think of it as building your toolkit. You might be helping senior inspectors during inspections, learning how to spot potential hazards, collect samples, document what you find. You'll also be learning the food safety laws, the backbone of the profession.
Great way to get practical experience. Put those concepts into action. The guide even has a sample profile of a typical trainee.
It does. Talks about having a bachelor's degree in food science or something similar, being detail-oriented, having a good work ethic. But most importantly, it says you've got to be passionate about food safety. That's what drives you to learn, to ask questions, and to be the best you can be.
So it's not just checking boxes. You're really invested in making sure food is safe. It's about having that drive to make a difference. Now, what's the next step on the ladder?
Once you've got enough experience and shown you know what you're doing, you'd usually move up to a full-fledged food safety inspector.
Time to fly solo.
Exactly. This is where you take charge, doing those routine inspections and audits, making sure those food processing places are meeting those safety and health standards. You'll be spotting hazards, recommending fixes, and working closely with those food businesses to make sure they're compliant. Being proactive, keeping everything up to par, protecting public health.
Big responsibility.
It is, but it's really rewarding too. You're making a real difference. And just like with the trainee profile, the guide has one for a food safety inspector too.
What kind of skills and qualities does it highlight?
Well, it emphasizes experience with inspections, being good at spotting hazards, and a deep understanding of the rules and procedures. It also mentions communication skills, which is really important. You're going to be talking to all sorts of people, food handlers, business owners, other officials. You have to be able to explain things clearly, give advice, and build relationships.
Not just knowing the science, but being able to communicate it. Now, what about room for growth in this role? Can a food safety inspector move up even further?
Absolutely. If you keep doing great work, you could become a senior food safety inspector.
That's where leadership comes in.
Right. At this level, you're not just inspecting, you're leading a team of inspectors, overseeing those complicated inspections and audits, developing food safety policies. You might even investigate foodborne illness outbreaks. You're the go-to person for your team, providing guidance and expertise.
Sounds challenging, but fulfilling. The guide probably has a sample profile for a senior food safety inspector, too.
It does. Highlights things like managing teams, overseeing inspections, developing policies and procedures, and it mentions advanced certifications, showing you're always learning.
It's inspiring to see how this career can grow. What if someone's interested in more than just inspections? Are there other paths?
Definitely. The guide mentions becoming a food safety manager, within a food company or another organization.
Interesting.
Think of it as the ultimate food safety strategist. They're responsible for the whole food safety program. They make sure everything's compliant with the regulations, do risk assessments, develop training programs, and lead investigations into any food safety incidents.
The food safety guardian for the whole company.
That's a good way to put it. It's a high-level job. You need to really know your stuff when it comes to food safety, have great leadership and communication skills, and be able to manage complex systems.
So from trainee to manager, there's a clear path. You mentioned earlier that RoleCatcher can help with finding skills gaps and recommending ways to develop professionally. How does that work?
So let's say you want to be a food safety manager. You can use RoleCatcher's AI to look at job descriptions for similar positions. See how your skills match up. and figure out what areas you might need to improve on.
A personalized gap analysis.
Exactly. And it goes further than that. RoleCatcher can then suggest courses, certifications, training programs, even professional organizations that can help you fill those gaps, make you a stronger candidate.
That's so valuable, like a career advisor right there in your pocket. We talked earlier about certifications that can help. Can you remind us about those?
Sure. The career guide highlights things like HACCP, which we talked about, and ServSafe, Certified Professional Food Safety, and Registered Environmental Health Specialist. These credentials show you're serious about food safety and that you really know your stuff.
Leveling up, showing you're committed to the career.
Right. And remember, RoleCatcher can help you find courses and get ready for those certifications, making it easier to take that next step.
This has been so insightful. We've uncovered a lot about the food safety inspector career path. But before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to take a moment to connect with you, the listener.
Great idea. What are your key takeaways so far? What's standing out to you? Feel free to pause and jot down your thoughts. We'll be right back to talk about how the world of food safety is changing and what that means for aspiring inspectors like you. Welcome back.
Hope you had some time to think about everything we've talked about, from prepping for the interview to those different career paths. It's been quite a journey.
It really has. We've covered a lot. But now it's time to, zoom out a little and look at the bigger picture, how the whole food safety landscape is changing. This is where you can really, impress them in the interview. Show them that you're not just knowledgeable, but you're thinking ahead.
Yeah, the food industry always evolving. New technologies, new trends all the time. So for those aspiring food safety inspectors out there, what do you need to be aware of?
Well, it means you got to keep learning more than ever. Think of it this way. You're not just studying for this one interview. You're preparing for a career where you got to stay ahead of the game. The RoleCatcher Career Guide actually talks about some of these big trends, the ones shaping the future of food safety. And one of the biggest is technology.
Yeah, technology is changing everything. So it makes sense that it's having a huge impact on food safety. What are some of those advancements that aspiring inspectors should know about?
Well, we're seeing amazing things in traceability, like they're using blockchain to track food from the farm all the way to your plate. It helps keep things transparent and accountable. Then there are sensors that monitor temperature and other conditions, in real time, help stop food from going bad and bacteria from growing. And we can't forget AI. It's being used to look at tons of data, to find potential risks and even predict outbreaks.
Wow, it sounds like being a food safety inspector is getting even more high-tech.
It really is. And that's why it's so important to be comfortable with tech and understand how it's being used out there. You don't need to be a programmer, but you should be able to talk about how these new tools are making food safer.
So it's not just about knowing the rules, it's about how technology is changing how they're enforced. What else is shaping the future of food safety?
Well, consumer demand is a big factor. People are more aware of what's in their food, where it comes from. They want transparency. They want to know it's sustainable.
Yeah, we're all more aware of how our food choices affect our health and the environment.
Right. And this is changing food labels, how things are produced, even the regulations themselves. Food safety inspectors need to understand these concerns and be ready to talk about them during inspections and when they're working with businesses.
So if you're getting ready for an interview, how can you use this information in your answers? It sounds like showing you're aware of these trends could really give you an edge.
Absolutely. Imagine they ask you, what are some of the biggest challenges in the food safety industry today? You could mention how complex global supply chains are, the need for better tracking systems, or the demand for sustainable and ethical food production.
Show them you're not just stuck in the past. You're thinking about the present and future of food safety.
Exactly. Here's a tip. Before your interview, do some research, on new technologies and trends in food safety. Read some industry articles, check out websites like the FDA or USDA. You could even follow some experts on social media. It'll give you some good talking points and show that you're genuinely interested in this stuff.
Great advice. It's all about going the extra mile, showing them you're passionate and ready to be a part of this evolving world of food safety.
And don't forget about RoleCatcher. It's an amazing tool that can help you every step of the way, from getting ready for the interview to finding ways to move up in your career.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive, and I have to say I'm feeling pretty inspired. What are your final thoughts for our listeners who are starting out on this exciting career path?
Remember, food safety is about more than just rules and inspections. It's about keeping people healthy and making sure we all have access to safe food. If you're passionate about making a difference, this could be the perfect career for you.
Absolutely. And as we've seen, it's a field that's always changing, full of opportunities to grow, learn, and innovate. Embrace those challenges, stay curious, and never stop learning.
And never underestimate the power of preparation. The more you know about the job, the industry, the tools available to you, the more confident and successful you'll be.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Deep Dive. We hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Good luck with your food safety inspector interviews, and remember, you got this. All right, welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back.
Hope you had a chance to, digest all that, from the interview prep to the career paths. Quite a bit of info.
Yeah, it was.
But now it's time to kind of zoom out. Look at the, the big picture, the evolving landscape of food safety. This is where you can, really shine in your interview. Show them you're not just knowledgeable, but you're forward-thinking.
Exactly. It's not just about what you know now, but where the industry is headed.
Yeah, the food industry is always changing, right? New technologies, consumer trends popping up all the time. So for aspiring food safety inspectors, what's important to keep in mind?
Well, continuous learning is more crucial than ever. You're not just prepping for an interview. You're preparing for a career where you need to stay ahead of the curve. And the RoleCatcher Career Guide, it actually touches on some of these, key trends. The ones that are shaping the future of food safety. Like one of the most significant is technology.
Yeah, tech is changing everything these days. It's no surprise it's having a big impact on food safety as well. What are some of the advancements that people should be aware of?
Oh, we're seeing incredible stuff in traceability, like blockchain technology. It's being used to track food, from the farm all the way to your fork. It ensures transparency and accountability, throughout the whole supply chain. Then there are sensors that monitor temperatures and other conditions in real time so you can prevent spoilage and the growth of bacteria. And of course, artificial intelligence. It's analyzing massive amounts of data to pinpoint potential risks and even predict outbreaks before they occur.
It sounds like the role of a food safety inspector is becoming even more high-tech and data-driven.
Absolutely. That's why it's so vital for aspiring inspectors to be comfortable with technology, understand how it's being used. You don't need to be a tech whiz, but you should be able to explain how these advancements are improving food safety.
Right. So it's not just about knowing the regulations. It's understanding how tech is changing, how those rules are put into practice. So what other factors are influencing the future of food safety?
Well, consumer demand is a huge one. People are much more informed than ever before about what's in their food and where it comes from. They're demanding transparency, traceability, and sustainability.
It makes sense. We're all more aware of the impact of our food choices these days, on our health and the planet.
Absolutely. And this is influencing everything: food labeling, production methods, even regulations. Food safety inspectors need to be attuned to these concerns, be able to address them during inspections and when interacting with food businesses.
So how can someone who's prepping for an interview, incorporate these insights into their answers? It seems like showing you're aware of these trends could really help you stand out.
It definitely could. Imagine you're asked, what are some of the biggest challenges facing the food safety industry? You could mention things like the complexity of global supply chains, or the need for more sophisticated tracking systems, or even the growing demand for sustainable and ethical food production.
Right, showing you're not just knowledgeable about the past, but you're engaged in the present and future of food safety.
Exactly. Here's a pro tip before your interview. Take some time to research emerging technologies and trends. Read some industry articles, check out websites like the FDA, the USDA. You could even follow some thought leaders in the field on social media. Gives you some good talking points and shows you're genuinely interested.
Great advice. Go on that extra mile, showing your passion and that you're ready to contribute.
And don't forget about RoleCatcher. It can be a fantastic resource to help you prepare for every stage of your journey, from nailing the interview to advancing in your career.
Well, we've come to the end of our deep dive. I have to say I'm feeling pretty inspired. Any final thoughts for our listeners as they embark on this exciting career path?
Just remember, food safety, it's more than rules and inspections. It's about safeguarding public health, ensuring a safe and sustainable food supply for everyone. If you're passionate about making a real difference, this could be the perfect career.
Absolutely. And as we've discussed today, it's a dynamic field, always changing, full of opportunities for growth and innovation. So embrace those challenges, stay curious, and never stop learning.
And never underestimate the power of preparation. The more you know about the job, the industry, the resources available, the more confident and successful you'll be.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive. We hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Good luck with your food safety inspector interviews. And remember, you got this one.